Hello, yarny friends. This is my podcast, Rambling Yarn. I am Emily. Thank you for joining me today. If you have just stumbled on my little tiny channel over here in this little corner of the internet, welcome. So glad to have you here, and I hope that you enjoy hanging out. And if you are a returning viewer, thank you for coming back. I really, really appreciate it. This is your typical knitting, crafting podcast where I talk about what I am making, things that are currently in the process of being made, things that I've just finished up, occasionally kind of what I'm daydreaming about starting, and sometimes things that I may or may not have just picked up. And also occasionally if I'm reading something interesting that I want to share. So join me today and we will pretty much be talking about all of those things actually. And I'm very excited about all of that. It is the beginning of October. Fall is my favorite season. I feel like every knitter, every crocheter, everybody who makes cozy, warm things to wear, I feel like they are always like, oh, autumn, fall, it's my favorite. I'm an October birthday baby, and I think that's probably actually why fall is my favorite. I don't have any apple cider in my house yet, but I am drinking, I think it's Celestial Seasonings. They have like an apple cinnamon tea, which is really lovely because it feels warm and it's got that spice to it without a lot of the sugar content that apple cider has, which actually tends to kind of be a little too much for me. So this is kind of a perfect, almost but not quite. So I'm going to start off with my whips that I've got going. I only have 2 right now because I've been trying to work pretty monogamously on things so that I can just get them done. So I'm going to start with something that if you are my sister and you are watching this, you should not watch this for a couple of minutes, okay? All right, you can watch this after your birthday. I'm crocheting. This is crochet. I don't crochet often. I'm not really sure why. I lean more towards knitting. That just is how it is, but I've had the itch lately to pick up my crochet hook and make something. And so I am whipping up a water bottle holder for like the classic Nalgene water bottles, like the wide mouth Nalgene water bottles. I'm not using a pattern. I went on Pinterest and just searched crochet water bottle holder and just looked at a bunch of pictures and then have just kind of winged it from there. So this is what I have so far. I'm using, I think it's a seed stitch. That's the seam. We're going to pretend like it's okay and you're not going to see it anyways. If you can hear some craziness outside, this is a Thursday, but all of my school-aged children are home. And so is my husband. So everybody decided that they were going to like have fun right now. It's got a circular bottom. So it's going to stand up. I actually didn't end up counting how many stitches I had going around. I did the bottom and I did it all by measuring on the water bottle itself. So it fits like a glove, but I didn't write anything down. And I probably should have done that, but oh well. So once I got, like 3.5 inches up This is just regular old single crochet. And then I started doing is it the seed stitch? I think that's what that is. And then the top, I just did a little, it's not a ruffle, wave, whatever, just to make it, give it just a little interest. And here are the little handles that I'm planning on attaching this to, which I think I need to measure it. So this is the strap. I'm going to like put it in like this. And sew this part up like that, so that it goes up and around, and then it'll connect on this side, and you can just hook it over. And yeah, that's that. This is fun. It is Lily's Sugar and Cream. I think that's the brand. It's, you know, your typical cotton yarn. It's not the merciated cotton, so it's not shiny. It's dull. This is wicking the oil of like my natural oil, skin oil, off of my hands like nobody's business. So they're very dry after I work on this. And I kind of also forgot how squeaky cotton yarn can be. But other than that, it's almost done, and I'm very excited, and I'm hoping that she'll like it. Hoping. It's gone by really fast. I forgot how quickly crochet works up, and I forgot how much I enjoy hooking away. It's great. And next, I have socks. So this is, I guess this is technically a half finished object. I am working on, these are called the Miette Socks, and I believe the designer's name is Bauer. I found this project actually on Ravelry, or not, well, I mean, I bought it off of Ravelry, but I was on the sock knitting subreddit, which I think is just like r/sock knitting. And a post was suggested for me, and it was this really cute pattern. It was, the designer had posted, she's like, I just released this pattern. I can't remember if it was her first pattern or if she had made others before, but there was a picture of the socks and they just were adorable. And I've been trying to find, I figured it would end up being a sock pattern, but I've been trying to find a pattern to use this particular yarn in, because I got more or less like a little sock set, and it's hand dyed. It's hand dyed yarn. This was given to me by my best friend, Bella of Fiber and Fox. You can find her on YouTube and on Instagram, all the same name, Fiber and Fox. And she likes to do some experimental dyeing, natural dyeing, and then she loves to involve her daughter with some of that. And they do things with like the leftover dye solution that you would use for Easter eggs, or like the Wilton cake coloring dyes and stuff like that. So that's a way for them to kind of have fun and combine interests. And so I can't remember if it was for my birthday or for Christmas, but it was for a gift last year. I got some of the yarn that they dyed up, which was really, really fun. And it's really cute, but I couldn't figure out for the life of me what I was going to use it for exactly, because the colors, they were giving me, just by looking at them together without being made up into anything, Barney the Dinosaur vibes, which I don't think was intentional. However, that's where my brain went to right off the bat. So therein kind of lied the problem of, what do I make with these and how can I use them together in a way that isn't going to remind me of that. Not that that's a terrible and bad thing. It's just somewhat comical in my brain. And then I found this, and it was really adorable. They've got this little scallop motif that's here at the cuff in the pattern. Actually, I don't think the pattern called for twisted rib, but I decided to do twisted rib on my cuff. And they're showing up, at least on the monitor, a little punchier than they are in real life, which is fine. But I did twisted rib, this adorable scallop that's here, and then you knit. It's just a heel flopping gusset. Thank goodness. It uses actually one of my favorite heel turns that I feel like no matter what kind of heel turn I try when I am just experimenting with different ones, I always come back to this one, and I believe it's called a Dutch heel. It's square, and that has worked the best for hugging the bottom of my heel. So you work it, and then the toe is also a scallop. So this is my second one, and I am maybe 2 inches, maybe 3 inches from starting the scallop for the toe. Let me grab, I have the other one on a blocker, so give me 1 second. Here it is all worked up. So you can see the toe. And so because of this scallop here, and I mean to an extent the one that's down here, and the fact that I was also making them, or started during the time that any of my vegetable garden was starting to produce any of the fruits that I had, fruits or veggies or whatever, you know, that I had started growing. My eggplant plants actually, like I was getting the vegetables from them, which were delicious, by the way. And instead of Barney the dinosaur, to me, because of that, I started calling these have been nicknamed my accidental eggplant socks. And now you cannot unsee that, which makes me giggle, and I love it. So here they are the Miette Socks by Carly Bauer, aka Emily's accidental eggplant socks. And I am using a size, I think it's a USI, which I'm pretty sure translates into a 5.5 millimeter hook for these, by the way. Oh, and the socks are on just a typical US size 1, which I believe is a 2.25 millimeter, which is pretty standard, you know, standard knitting needle for socks. And I think that's my go-to as well, in case anybody was wondering. All right, next we're going to talk about finished objects, and I'm so happy to finally say that this one is done. So back before, I feel like this shouldn't have taken so long, but it did. I started this back before my family and I moved to Connecticut. We lived in Maine before this, and I popped this on the needles for my mother. Maybe don't watch this, Mom. I don't know. I feel like I told you already that I was making this. So if Mom, if you're watching this, I think you already knew about this. Happy Christmas. This I am using is kind of a mystery acrylic yarn that wanted to be a single ply that I absolutely detested working with, but I liked the colors, and I don't think I would ever actually purchase this yarn for myself. I think it was a red heart. It was like a unique boutique something or other that somebody had been gifted in like a mass like destash of yarn. And then they had too much, so then they gave it to me, and I was like, okay, I'm not a snob per se, But if I'm getting the yarn for myself, like I will gravitate more towards wool. But I will not say no when somebody gives me yarn that they do not have a use for, and it happens to be acrylic, because that also has so many uses. And just because I may not make something out of it for me because of my own preference, doesn't mean that it's not going to work really well for a gift for somebody else, especially if they don't particularly have the time or knowledge to care for an animal or a plant fiber. Or if it's a child, these things work very, very well. So I happened to have this, whatever this mystery yarn was, in stash, and decided that it would be perfect for my mom for a DRK Everyday Cowl, which is knit on the bias, and then it is seamed in the back. Don't look too closely. The seaming's not great, but at this point in time, I was ready to get this thing off of my needles. I still need to weave in this end, but here it is finally. So it's seamed at the back. I will put it on in a second. And then you wear it, and it's got a little triangle sort of. Boop. But the colors were they were very, very mom colors. They were very much, this is what she gravitates towards a lot in her wardrobe, this really pretty kind of icy blue and aloe green and kind of khaki-ish color all together, which is great. So I'll put this on really quick and you can kind of see what it looks like. So yeah, it has a little bit of like that bandana sort of look. So this will be really good for her. And I think, oh yeah, she wanted it for walking, for when she was walking, but didn't necessarily want like a lot of layers. But this way she could at least keep her chest warm and her neck and do this if she needed to for her nose. Next up, I need to finish the mittens that I started. That won't take long. And those are my famous last words. But here it is, the DRK Everyday Cowl. DRK being Drea Renee Knits, Andrea Mowry, who is a very, very talented designer. And if you haven't heard of her, you should go check her out. She's rather prolific and she's great, and also releasing patterns all the time. I mean, it's her job, but like, oh my goodness, I don't know how she does it. It's amazing. But would suggest, would have taken me less time, except I moved in the middle of it and then it was summer and I hated this yarn. That's all. The next finished object that I have is this sweater, and I am so in love with this. I am so in love with this, and I'm really glad about that because I was a tad hesitant. I think the first time that I showed this on the podcast, I wasn't really sure what I thought about it, but I had also only gotten the bottom ribbing done and the like maybe one or two of the pattern repeats after that. And I wasn't 100% sure. But somebody was like, I really like your yarn. I like your yarn and I think the pattern is great. And so I thought, okay, we'll give it a try. That's very encouraging because I also really like it, but I'm just second guessing myself. But I continued on. So thank you, whoever posted that comment. That was really encouraging and I really appreciate it. And here we are. So this is the Mandolin cardigan. This is a design by Savory Knitting, who I believe is Amy Christophers. I have heard multiple people say it different ways, and I am unsure. I don't know Amy Christophers. I'm really sorry if it's Christophers. This is knit up in, it's Berroco, and the yarn is called Mochi. another word that I never know if I am pronouncing correctly, because I very rarely hear anybody actually say it in my little circle. The construction for this is, it's like one of those yarns where there's a tube, like the nylon part of it is like very finely knit up into a tube, and then the rest of the fibers, which there's wool. I can't remember if it's merino, and of course I don't have a ball with me right now, but wool and alpaca. I'm trying to remember if there's anything else, but those are the three main things. And then so those bits are blown into the tube, so it's very airy, very squishy, very light, very warm and insulating, which is, I wasn't sure if it was going to be, and I'm glad that it is, considering it's an all over lace pattern. So it does, you know, it has holes in it. But the yarn itself, because it is so insulating, it kind of counteracts, you know, the openness. It is knit from the bottom up, which is a construction that I have never done before. I've never knit something from the bottom up. So I was a little bit nervous because I wasn't sure how I was going to be able to try anything on, but it worked out. I did follow, I don't think I made any modifications at all. So I followed the pattern. I think I made the third size, second or third size, I think. Maybe. It is meant to be worn with positive ease. I will say that. So bottom up, seam your shoulders, knit your sleeves, seam your sleeves. Yeah, and that's it. This is, I can't stop wearing it, and I wish that the weather was colder. We keep having random warm snaps because summer will not just go quietly, of course. So I think we're finally in a place where it is roughly 70-ish degrees in the afternoon pretty consistently. And if I sit somewhere in the shade and I'm outside, I can wear this, thankfully. I actually have about a sweater's quantity worth of this yarn. I got this from Webs. I bought it online, which they are yarn.com, I believe. Yarn.com. Love that they got that domain. They snagged that like way at the beginning. I used it's a US size 9, which is that 4.5 millimeter? 5.5 millimeter. US 9, 5.5 millimeter, which is actually, I believe that's a needle that the pattern suggested. I do seem to get gauge. I match gauge with what her patterns call for, which is very handy. And I want to say, I'll put the details down in the description. I want to say that the color, the name of the color was Black Sesame. However, caveat, this yarn is discontinued, which actually makes me very sad because this was a joy to work with and it's a joy to wear, and I would 100% make more garments with this particular yarn. So I'm going to need to find something similar to substitute if I decide to make something else and I want it to be made of this. But I did buy like 10 balls of this because I had a gift card and it was on sale, which in retrospect is because they were discontinuing it. If I had known that, I probably would have bought a little bit more, but that's okay. So I do have, I had just broken into a 5th ball. So I have most of that. I think I have, so yeah, I more or less have 5 balls, or 4 and most of 1. So I have enough to make maybe a pullover or something, another garment of some sort. So I need to look and see what I can find for that. And that's all I have to say about this. It's wonderful and you should make it. And I it's just so nice. It's so nice and I love it. I'm going to move on to acquisitions, and I only have 2. I very rarely have acquisitions, I feel like, which is fine. I try not to like just grab a bunch of stuff often, because my house is small and I share it with 4 other people. So it is what it is. But when I saw this, I couldn't leave it. I found this basket. Look at this. It's got legs. It has legs. It's wide. Like you could fit probably a blanket, 5 sweaters. I found this at Savers, which is a thrift store that is, I don't know if it's like a regional sort of thing. I don't know if I've ever seen it outside of New England. I don't know. It doesn't really matter. I don't know. You just go to a thrift store. Sometimes they've got really cool things. I found this at Savers, which is the thrift store that's close to me, and it's scattered throughout at least New England, if not the rest of the United States. And I got this for like $10. Apparently there's a sticker on the bottom. It sold for $25. Or apparently, compare at $40. So apparently this could have sold for $40. This probably was something that somebody bought at like a Marshall's or a Home Goods. So it wasn't as expensive. So it was retailing for $25. And then I found it at Savers for $10. And I couldn't leave it there because it's perfect for putting right next to me and holding projects while I work on them. And currently inside is my next acquisition, which is this amazing yarn. And I have no idea. Well, I know I'm going to make a sweater, but I don't know what sweater. This is like the first Fiber for the People purchase that I have made in 2 years, maybe. I've been on a Fiber for the People diet simply for the good of my wallet, because I have a lot of her yarn. She is one of my favorite indie dyers. She has a podcast, which is also one of my favorites to watch. And yeah, I at this point, I'm trying to work through my stash, so I'm trying not to really acquire anymore. But I did see this. Bella actually texted me, and she's like, I can't buy this, but you should, because one of us needs to. And so I did. My husband actually purchased it for me as an anniversary gift, which was really lovely. And now I have a sweater's quantity of it. The colorway is called Midnight. This is 100% Nevada Merino Rambouillet. It's 350 yards. It's sport weight. So I need to find a sport weight pattern for this this yarn. A sweater pattern for this sport weight yarn. There we go. It actually is, so it's rather brown. It's not picking up as much on camera, but it has kind of these really lovely chocolatey, red, violet undertones. So it's really, really rich, and I love it. This is part of her Born, Shorn, and Dyed collection, which is a really neat collaboration that she's doing with, I can't remember. It's a farm that is in Nevada, which is where she also lives. And the sheep are born there. They're shorn there. The yarn, I think might be milled there, and then it's sent, she's working with them and she's dyeing it there. So it's kind of like all around a very local collaboration, and I think that that's really cool. There is a little bit of vegetable matter in this as well, which is also kind of fun, but thankfully it doesn't look like it's so much that I'm going to feel like I'm like picking a whole field out of the yarn while I'm working with it. So if you have any suggestions, any favorite sport weight patterns for sweaters or shawls, please feel free to leave your suggestions in the comments. I would love to know and love some ideas on what I should turn this into. It is so squishy and I can't wait. I've thought about maybe doing the pressed flowers, like the pullover, which means I would have to get a contrasting yarn. So maybe I'll hold off on that a little bit. I don't know. Let me know if you have any ideas. I would love to know your thoughts. So that's all I have as far as knitting content goes. I have a book that I am almost done with that I would love to talk about, and then a book that I just picked up from Target that I've been eyeballing for a while, and I thought that it would be very appropriate for going into autumn. So first I want to talk about, this is Circe by Madeline Miller. Madeline Miller is an author who is absolutely fantastic at retelling and reimagining Greek myths, which I have had a fascination with since childhood. I love Greek myths. My husband is part Greek. His father was born there. His grandmother was actually born on the island of Crete, which, if you know Greek mythology, that's where the Minotaur, that whole thing takes place. So that's kind of cool. And so this follows Circe, who is a witch in Greek mythology, and she is exiled for a couple of things, well, really just for being who she is and gifts that she has and was born with naturally. And it follows her life from there as she is exiled on this island and kind of just coming into her own and herself and growing. Just the perspective has been really interesting. It was hard to get into initially. I feel like the story started off a little slowly. The pacing is slow. This is not like a fast, like grab you and run story. It builds on itself, and it's, I don't know if it's because I'm a mother and a woman, so the aspects in here they've gotten kind of emotional. I've gotten to a point where I almost need to like put it down and just kind of sit with it for a minute. But her storytelling is just so poetic and so lyrical and so beautiful. And I am very excited to finish this, even if it's taken me a little while. And that's also fine. You do not need to read books like at the speed of light. And God only knows I do not have time to do that all of the time, because I've got 3 kiddos and a house and adult responsibilities. So it's over when it's over, and you just enjoy it along the way. And that's what I have been doing with this one. This is really great, and I look forward to reading it whenever I actually have the chance. The next one that I have, I've seen it floating around Amazon. It kept getting like recommended. I've seen a couple of other people talk about it, and this is called What Moves the Dead by T. Kingfisher. I have never read any books by T. Kingfisher, so that's not what tipped me onto it. The story is apparently a retelling of The Fall of the House of Usher, which is by Edgar Allan Poe. I was a fan of Poe, not that I stopped being a fan, but I was more into Poe and more read up on Poe as a teenager. I really enjoyed his stories and his poems and all of that. That was really, like, that was my thing. So that's what got me interested in this one initially. That, and the cover art is just like morbidly fascinating. Like, it's beautiful, but it makes me kind of go, ew, but I kind of love that. This is much skinnier. This is much smaller than I realized it was going to be. So this, I think, is going to be very appropriate as we move into spooky season, as they say. I'm not much of a spooky season girl. I'm like a cozy autumn, dark academia. I like a little bit of mystery, but I don't love horror. So I don't know. This could be just great for that. So I will probably let you know if I start this, or when I start this, when I'm getting through it, and we'll see how that goes. And that's all that I have for you today. That's all that I have for you. All that I've got going on. Thank you so much for sitting and chatting with me while I went through what I'm working on and what I'm enjoying. And I hope you got something done, or you got to just sit down and relax. Really quick, I did want to thank you guys. I made a video about we can call it viral, I guess, because everybody talks about it. There's so many videos out there on it, but the ranunculus sweater. I made a video about that, and a lot of people watched that. A lot of people liked it. A lot of people engaged with it, and it was humbling and unexpected and amazing. And I just want to say thank you to everybody who watched and interacted with that video, and anybody who subscribed to me coming from there or from anywhere else. A lot of new people joined me, which was also very humbling and very exciting. And I just want to say thank you so much. And thanks for being here. I really do appreciate it. I make these videos for fun, and I make them as just kind of like my own personal knitting diary. And any little bit of extras that could possibly come from that would also be really amazing. And I'm excited that there's people who want to sit here with me along the way. So I really do. I appreciate that, and I appreciate you. And I just wanted to say thank you. Thank you so much. I will see you next time. Hopefully I can get this up and running really quickly. So for now, enjoy whatever it is that you're making and doing, and enjoy your autumn. And I will see you next time on another episode of A Rambling Yarn. Bye, guys.